Ethan had never imagined that his life would lead him so far from Earth. As a xenobiologist, he had always been fascinated by alien worlds, but nothing had prepared him for the Varelian homeworld. From orbit, the planet looked alive. Vast forests that shimmered with strange colors and rivers that glowed faintly in the sunlight. His shuttle landed gently on a platform carved from living crystal, which pulsed softly beneath his boots. The air smelled different, clean, earthy, and faintly sweet, and his lungs welcomed the unfamiliar oxygen. The Varelians themselves were unlike anything he had seen. Tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin that reflected the light like a prism. They moved with a fluid elegance that reminded him of dancers. Their eyes were large and expressive, capable of conveying emotions without a single word. Ethan could see the curiosity and caution in every glance directed at him. Despite his training and experience, he felt small in comparison. Like a child standing before something ancient and powerful, he was greeted by Lyra, the female Varelian he had been assigned to observe. She approached silently, her movements deliberate and calm. Unlike other members of her species, she seemed intensely aware of him, as if she could sense his every thought. Ethan offered the standard greeting, bowing slightly as a sign of respect, and she nodded in return. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft and melodic, almost like a song. "You are far from home, human. Are you prepared for what comes next?" Ethan hesitated. Prepared? He had trained for every possible scenario in xenobiology, but nothing had prepared him for this. The concept of mating season had been explained in their culture briefings, but Ethan had assumed it was merely ceremonial, a distant custom that would not involve him personally. He had been wrong. Very wrong. In Varelian society, mating season was a sacred and critical event. It occurred only once every 10 years, and the choice of a mate was determined by the female designated as the leader of the season. This choice was not random. It was based on qualities she valued most: courage, intelligence, creativity, and the ability to adapt. To his astonishment, Lyra had chosen him. Not a Varelian, not another of her kind, but a human. Ethan's mind raced. He had been chosen for qualities he'd barely recognized in himself. The weight of expectations settled on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. He was taken to the ceremonial grounds, a massive clearing surrounded by ancient trees that towered like skyscrapers. The air was thick with the fragrance of alien flowers. Soft light emanated from the floor itself, bathing the area in a surreal glow. Varelians gathered around, their eyes fixed on him. Ethan felt the full force of their scrutiny and realized that every move he made was being watched, every reaction analyzed. He tried to calm his racing heart, reminding himself that fear and hesitation would not serve him here. Lyra led him to a platform in the center of the clearing. The ground beneath him pulsed gently, a living connection to the world around. She explained that the first phase of the trial would test his adaptability. The terrain would shift, presenting obstacles that required quick thinking and ingenuity to overcome. Ethan nodded, his mind already formulating strategies. He had faced harsh environments before, but never ones that seemed alive, aware of his presence, and capable of responding to his actions. As the trial began, the ground morphed beneath him, rising into jagged crystalline spikes that threatened to impale him if he misstepped. Trees moved subtly, blocking paths and creating confusing mazes. Ethan relied on his instincts, leaping and ducking, calculating each movement with precision. He realized that his human flexibility, creativity, and ability to improvise gave him an edge the Varelians did not anticipate. Their trials were designed for their own physiology, not for someone with his build and reflexes. Lyra watched closely, her eyes narrowing slightly as she studied his approach. She did not intervene, allowing him to navigate the challenges on his own. At one point, he had to figure out how to cross a river that shifted and flowed unpredictably. Using his knowledge of physics and materials, he rigged a temporary bridge from nearby crystalline growths. The Varelians murmured among themselves, impressed by his ingenuity. Ethan realized that he was not only surviving the trial, but also earning their respect. After hours of physical and mental challenges, he finally reached the center of the clearing. Exhausted but triumphant, he looked up to see Lyra approaching. Her gaze held a mixture of admiration and curiosity, emotions he had never expected to see in a member of an alien species. She extended her hand, a gesture that symbolized acceptance in Varelian culture. Ethan took it, feeling an odd warmth and connection as their hands met. The next phase involved understanding Varelian social rituals and communication. Unlike humans, the Varelians relied heavily on subtle gestures, melodic tones, and shared emotions to convey meaning. Ethan spent hours learning their language, mimicking their tones, and observing how they interacted. It was exhausting, but he could feel himself becoming attuned to their ways. His human perspective allowed him to see patterns they took for granted, and he began to contribute insights that even the Varelians found novel. During a quiet moment, Lyra spoke to him alone. "You are different from the others," she said. "You see the world in ways we cannot. That is why I chose you." Ethan felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. Different was a dangerous place to be, especially in a society that valued tradition and conformity. Yet, it was also an opportunity, a chance to bridge two worlds. As night fell, the clearing transformed. Bioluminescent plants glowed brighter, casting soft, dancing lights across the gathering. Ethan watched as Varelians performed their ceremonial dances, movements precise and hypnotic. He realized that mating season was more than reproduction. It was a celebration of life, intelligence, and the interconnectedness of their species with the world around them. He felt honored to be part of it, even as an outsider. Lyra guided him to a vantage point where he could observe without participating directly. "Tomorrow, the trials will become more personal," she explained. "You will need to demonstrate not only your strength and intelligence, but also your understanding of connection, trust, and empathy." Ethan nodded, realizing that the true challenge had only just begun. That night, he lay in the small dwelling assigned to him. Listening to the soft hum of the alien world, he thought about the path that had brought him here, the choices he had made, and the uncertainty that lay ahead. Sleep came fitfully, filled with dreams of glowing forests, shifting terrain, and Lyra's piercing gaze. He understood that whatever awaited him tomorrow, he would face it not just as a human, but as a representative of his species, a bridge between Earth and the Varelian homeworld. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, Ethan rose with a sense of resolve. He had survived the first trials, earned a measure of respect, and, most unexpectedly, formed a bond with the most powerful Varelian female of the season. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew one thing clearly: he would not falter. For the first time in his life, he understood that being chosen was not a burden, but a responsibility, and he would meet it with every ounce of courage, intelligence, and humanity he possessed. Ethan woke to the soft glow of the Varelian morning, the forest alive with light and gentle hums. Today, the trials would test more than his physical ability. They would test his understanding of connection and trust, the qualities the Varelians valued most. As he stepped outside, he saw Lyra waiting, her posture calm but commanding. Her gaze met his, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. He felt a nervous flutter but steadied himself. This was the moment that could define not only his future, but the bond between humanity and the Varelians. Lyra led him deeper into the forest, where the air was thick with the scent of alien flora. Trees towered overhead, their branches intertwined, forming natural arches that seemed to breathe with life. The terrain was unpredictable, and the path shifted subtly, as if the forest itself was aware of their presence. Ethan kept his senses sharp, noting the smallest changes in light, sound, and movement. He had survived physical trials before, but this was different. These trials required intuition and empathy as much as agility. They arrived at a river whose surface shimmered like liquid crystal. The water seemed calm, yet Ethan could sense an underlying current that could sweep him away in an instant. Lyra gestured for him to cross, her eyes studying his reaction. As he looked around, he realized the challenge was not simply to cross, but to understand the river's rhythm, to work with it rather than against it. He extended his hand to touch the water and felt the pulse of energy beneath it. Using a combination of careful balance and observation, he stepped across, adjusting his weight with each pulse until he reached the other side safely. Lyra's eyes brightened with approval. Ethan felt a surge of confidence. The next trial involved understanding Varelian communication and social bonds. A group of young Varelians approached, their expressions curious. Ethan quickly realized that they were testing his ability to connect without words, relying solely on emotion, gesture, and presence. He observed their subtle cues, the tilt of a head, the flicker of an eye. The shift in stance, and responded with patience and empathy. Slowly, they began to mirror his movements, a silent acknowledgement of understanding. Ethan had passed this trial not with knowledge, but with awareness and sensitivity, qualities humans often overlooked in favor of logic alone. As they continued, the challenges grew more complex. At one point, a sudden tremor shook the forest. A massive predator emerged, its translucent skin revealing powerful muscles beneath. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He knew he could not fight it with strength alone. Observing Lyra's movements, he realized that the creature responded to emotion and energy. Calmly, he extended his hands, radiating a steady, non-threatening presence. The predator hesitated, then slowly retreated, sensing no aggression. Lyra's eyes widened with admiration. Not only had he survived, but he had done so with restraint and intelligence. The final trial was the most personal. They entered a vast cavern where glowing crystals illuminated the walls. In the center lay a complex puzzle of energy conduits, requiring both technical skill and insight into Varelian philosophy. Ethan studied the patterns, recognizing that brute force would not solve it. Instead, he needed to understand the harmony between the components. Using his human ingenuity and knowledge of physics, he carefully adjusted the conduits, aligning them until the crystal network pulsed with synchronized energy. Light filled the cavern, bathing both Ethan and Lyra in a warm, radiant glow. The trial was complete. Ethan had demonstrated not only his capability, but his respect for Varelian wisdom and culture. Lyra stepped forward, her expression softening. "You have faced the trials with courage, understanding, and respect," she said. "You are not only worthy, but also rare, human. You see beyond what is immediate and grasp what is essential." Ethan felt a sense of humility and pride wash over him. He had feared the unknown, yet the unknown had revealed something extraordinary, not just about the Varelians, but about himself. The Varelian council gathered around, their faces serene but attentive. They observed Ethan with quiet scrutiny, noting his responses, his decisions, and his behavior under pressure. When Lyra formally announced his acceptance as her chosen partner, a wave of acknowledgement passed through the council. They recognized the potential in this union, not only for the continuation of their species, but also as a bridge between their world and humanity. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. He was not merely surviving trials. He was becoming part of something larger than himself, a symbol of connection between two intelligent species. Over the following days, Ethan and Lyra spent time together beyond the trials. They explored the vibrant landscapes of the Varelian homeworld, from floating gardens of bioluminescent plants to rivers that sang in harmonic tones as water flowed over mineral formations. Ethan observed how Lyra interacted with her people, seeing kindness, wisdom, and leadership in her every action. She, in turn, observed him, noticing his curiosity, patience, and adaptability. Though they came from vastly different worlds, they found common ground in values, courage, empathy, and a willingness to understand rather than judge. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Lyra and Ethan stood on a cliff overlooking a valley of glowing flora. The sight was breathtaking, and for a moment, words were unnecessary. Ethan realized that this was the essence of Varelian life, a profound connection to the world, to each other, and to those deemed worthy to share in their journey. Lyra reached out, her hand brushing his, and he felt a warmth that went beyond simple touch. It was trust, recognition, and a budding bond that transcended species. Lyra spoke softly. "You've shown qualities rare, even among your own kind, human. In choosing you, I recognize not only your strength, but also your understanding. That is what our mating season requires: a partner who can walk beside us, learn, and grow with us. Ethan nodded, overwhelmed by the significance of her words. It was more than acceptance. It was an invitation to belong, to connect, and to share in a life intertwined with another species' culture and survival. As the days passed, the relationship between Ethan and Lyra deepened naturally. They trained together, sharing knowledge and insights. Ethan taught Lyra about human problem-solving techniques, while she showed him the subtleties of Varelian philosophy and communication. Their bond became a blend of admiration, respect, and growing friendship, built on the trials they had faced together. Both realized that this partnership was not imposed by ritual alone, but earned through mutual understanding. When the final ceremonies of mating season arrived, Ethan stood alongside Lyra, no longer an outsider, but a recognized partner in the eyes of her people. The Varelians celebrated the union not with lavish extravagance, but with a profound acknowledgement of harmony, intelligence, and courage. Ethan felt a sense of fulfillment unlike anything he had known. He had entered a world as a stranger, faced impossible trials, and emerged as a respected participant in a civilization that valued life in ways both different and remarkably familiar. Ethan understood that the story of this partnership would extend far beyond the immediate trials. It was a bridge between humans and Varelians, proof that qualities like courage, empathy, and adaptability could transcend worlds. Lyra, too, recognized that in choosing him, she had embraced more than Imayachi, had embraced the possibility of mutual growth, understanding, and shared purpose. Together, they would explore the challenges and wonders of the Varelian world, shaping a future where two species could learn from each other and thrive. As they stood under the twin moons, the glowing forests stretching endlessly before them, Ethan realized that his life had changed forever. He had become part of a story larger than himself, a story of connection, courage, and humanity shining brightly among the stars. In that moment, he knew he was ready for whatever came next, side by side with Lyra, chosen not only for trials but for understanding, respect, and the shared journey of two very different worlds becoming one.